We've got a really great meaty topic today, Lisa. It's all about knowing your worth, avoiding underselling yourself and your services. We can go quite deep on this, can't we?
Yeah, definitely. This is a biggie.
Ooh.
And I think we'll probably have a lot of stories, reference points to share. So when you talk about knowing your worth, is that you as an individual or the products and services that you're providing?
Good question. It's both. Because I think they're linked. If you think it's knowing, if you knew the value of the products you're selling, products and services you're selling, but you didn't have that knowing your own internal worth, or the other way around, I think there's kind of like a disjoin, and I think they come hand in hand. So I think it's about valuing your time and expertise that you've built in that industry, and then knowing that your products and services add value to your customers and standing in that power and being confident.
And in a way, this applies really to service-based businesses. And in a way, sometimes I think I'm quite jealous of product-based businesses that it's so clear in terms of I buy it for this and I sell it for that.
I think the grass is always greener though, isn't it? Because if you're service-based, you're thinking, I just wish my life was easier with it. But if you're product-based, you're thinking, I wish my life was easier with the service.
But I think your answer is so true, because I don't know about you, but I think we certainly find ourselves sometimes negotiating with ourselves. You know, you've done the maths, you've worked out this service costs this amount.
Yeah.
And then when you pull the proposal or the quote together, you're thinking, oh, I don't know.
That might sound a bit expensive to them.
Exactly. And then you start to have this negotiation.
Yeah.
And then you're like,
I best drop off 10%
actually,
before I send it.
Exactly. and it is funny, because I have been told a lot of times by various people that there should be an element of uneasiness when you submit the quotation, because
I think you put something on LinkedIn last week about that. Yeah,
because there is an element of guesswork around. Are they going to say? Because I mean, this is such a brilliant topic, and I wish I had the answer to this question, because I really don't. Because you have that, this is a little bit expensive, but you send it because it's backed up with a thought out process behind why it costs what it costs. And then they come straight back and go, brilliant, let's go ahead. And then you think, damn it, I should have charged more.
Should have added on a bit more.
And I mean, that's really flippant, and it's not about charging more, charging what you can get away with. There does have to be a structure, and in a way, we've in my business we've really developed that to a point now where it's really clear if somebody asks for a lead generation service, contacting this amount of prospects, we have a really clear structure in terms of how to price that out. And I've done that specifically because I'm looking towards growing the business where anyone within the business can quote for a piece of work.
So much easier.
So you've
got really, a matrix.
Absolutely. And I think that's really important. So pricing a product should be quite clear and based on time taken, the value that's going to offer to the client. I think the taking yourself out of the equation and the whole negotiating with myself, I can't really charge that. You need to keep that separately.
Yeah, definitely. It needs to be removed. And you've just been reminding me of this horse photo. We were talking about a horse photo, weren't we? And it's something it's gone around Instagram and LinkedIn quite a bit. We'll put a picture on our Scale Up Podcast Instagram. But it's the one where there's two sides of the horse, isn't there? And one horse is like perfectly drawn, and the other horse looks like it's been done by a 4-year-old at play school. And it's like, this is what the customer wants, and this is what the customer has budget for.
Yeah.
And it's being able to stand in that kind of feeling of, but if the customer's only got that budget, I still want to deliver that, the other side, and make them an amazing job, but having the confidence to say, I'm really sorry, your budget isn't enough for what I need to do a really good job.
And I want to expand on that, if I may, and say that there are lots of things you can do to avoid being in that situation, because I see that as time wasting. You know, I don't want to be in a situation where I've gone down a process of quoting for a job only to then discover that they haven't got the budget for it. And I think that, I mean, we're British, right? Most of us, we don't like to talk about money, really. It's a bit sort of crude. But I think it is really important to have a pre-qualification process in place.
Yeah.
And
is that
also,
as in the research? Are you talking about what the research you do on who you're doing outreach to? Or are you talking about if somebody has an inquiry on your website, there's some clear parameters around my prices start from X. So then they're qualifying themselves out if they think, okay, the person's not right for me.
Both. So I haven't yet published my pricing on my website. I know that there are lots of schools of thought that say that you should.
I'm a big fan of putting prices on websites.
So we're different on that.
Yeah, that's okay.
I don't know why. I'm not a fan. I just haven't done it.
I see the rationale behind people that prefer not to.
But I think I'm going to eventually get there.
Yeah.
But the way that I do the pre-qualification process is that I mostly people come into my business through an inbound inquiry, and then I'll invite them to, a discovery call, because I want to understand more about their business, what their needs are, how I can support, how we can work together. And you can, on your calendar invites, if you're using a system like Calendly, for example, put something on there that says, our services start at X.
Yeah.
If you have the budget, proceed to go. If you don't have the budget, come back when you do, because it saves that embarrassment of you spending that time
on
and
a 30-minute
quoting
Zoom
and then them saying, oh no, sorry, I haven't got the budget. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is to just ask the question, which is, what is your budget? And if anyone out there has a solution to getting an honest answer to that question, I'd very much like to hear it, because everyone wants to avoid that question, because it's again back to this, well, if I say it's this,
you're going to quote all the way up to it and minus £5.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that is a tricky one. And to be fair, I've had limited success with that question.
I've heard of people say before, may I ask if you have a budget in place, and if so, what it is? Only not so that I can quote up to it, but so that I get an understanding of whether I'm in the right ballpark for you.
Yeah.
So just being really honest.
And I think, we are here to help and support other people in the world of business. So it's not a case of, oh, you don't have the budget, jog on, see you later. It's a case of, okay, I'm not going to be able to deliver that service within the parameters of your budget. However, I suggest you go away and do X, Y, Z.
Or there might be something like, for example, if somebody wants a one-to-one versus a group program, it might be like, your budget doesn't entail you to come into the one-to-one, but you could come into the group program, which is then going to be more beneficial for you. So there's always things like that where things can be tailored depending on where their budget lies in terms of what service or product that they
but I think it's really important to have those conversations and set those parameters in advance, because I think that saves everyone a lot of time and embarrassment. I also want to touch on, if I may, around this subject of, or the quotation.
I know what you're going to say.
No is a full sentence. So the reason I say that, and this is not one of my phrases, I've totally stolen that off somebody else. I can't remember who. So I want to break that down in two ways. So one is, when you are proposing for a job, approach with caution the level of detail that you go into, line by line, what that looks like. So this is the price, which includes this at this price, this at this price, this at this price, because then what happens is, potentially, the person you're proposing to comes back and says, oh, can we take out line 2 and 3, and can I just have 1? And that's when you get the horse photo scenario, in that they want something that you're just not able to deliver. It's best to give that
full price, to say, this is what I'm going to create for you, this, and this, and it costs this amount.
So that's the first part of no is a full sentence. Approach with caution, the level of granular detail that you go into in terms of breaking it down.
So a proactive no.
A proactive no. And then the second is, you do not have to justify your price. So if somebody comes back and says, oh, can you justify this, or can you allow, you don't have to do that. The price is the price. And actually, if they're not prepared to pay it and they don't see the value in the product or service that you're quoting for, they're not your ideal client. So no is a full sentence for two reasons. One, approach with caution when breaking down your quote, and two, deliver the price, stick to it. Don't feel the need to get back into the loop of justifying why the price is the price.
Yeah, and there's something else that comes off the back of that, is that they're not paying for that task in that moment. They're paying for the experience that's come with it. I think there's a saying, isn't there? You're not paying for the minutes, you're paying for the years or something of experience. So something that might take you one day to do, they're not just paying for your day, they're paying for like you being able to like work out, I'm speaking to the wrong person, let me get off that call and dial somebody else. Whereas they could get somebody else who's cheaper that then hasn't got that experience and might not have the same quality of output.
And something that you've really introduced me to, and this is something which is always playing in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about the cost, is the lifetime value of the client. So obviously, we're in the business of sales. We're in the business of finding customers for our customers. Yep. I always think now, if we convert, or if through this process they manage to convert however many customers that looks like, what is the value to their business of that conversion? Yeah. And it's not the value in the moment with that first order.
Because they might just have a taster sample pack. Exactly. That starts them off.
So one of my clients at the minute, they pride themselves on the fact that 80% of their current customers have been with them for 5 years or more.
What industry is that in?
So they've got really great customer retention. They're really happy with the service that they're providing.
What type of service?
Well,
without giving too much away.
It's a bit complicated, okay. So I won't quite go into it.
That's really fascinating. That's amazing.
I know. So in the back of my head, each time I'm sending off my invoice, I'm thinking, this month, if I get them one new customer and they stay with them for 5 years, that's huge. Yeah. And that makes me feel confident in the price that I'm quoting, because I know that the end game is they're not in it to win a quick deal. They're in it to get someone in that stays within their business for at least 5 years.
That's incredible.
And I think, that's happened as well with me in the food and drink world as well. If X% of these prospects place an order, what is the total value of that order? And I think that is very much how I base my pricing now. I think about the value to my customer, but then the ongoing value to them if they look after that customer and they stay with them.
That's incredible.
So you're such a expert in the whole like ways to price and pricing model. Do you want to just expand on that a little bit more?
I really get passionate about pricing. I've got a part of the 6-figure niche is there's an element of pricing in there, and there's 15 ways to price, and I really love helping people to delve into what they do, how they add the value, and create that pricing structure, that value ladder. Yeah, it's very different for every business because you can't kind of have too much of a blueprint. You can take all these 15 ways to price and kind of go, okay, what's going to look right for my business right now, and how might that change over time as well? And about increasing prices as well, because I think we get really, really like even my nail lady was saying the other day, I've got to put the prices up. Like people feel like worried that they have to put the prices up, and actually it's a natural progression. We have a chiropractor, we have a massage person once a month, and actually they've just said recently it's going to go up £5 per session in June, or like they're saying dates in advance. Yeah, and I just think it depends how they say it. If they're like, I'm really sorry, I've got to do this, or if they stand with conviction, just say the prices will be going up from then. I think if you have built that loyalty and if you have built that credibility, people don't think people don't think anything of something going up like less than 10%.
Yeah. And I think it's about the communication of, isn't it? How
you're
giving notice, don't feel the need to justify it.
Don't apologise.
Yeah. And I think as well, if a few drop off, but ultimately what you have is customers paying more, then it's almost a win-win, isn't it, really? And I know that, when the cost of living crisis hit and everything, there was lots of rumblings within the small business community, which was if you haven't put your prices up, then you're underselling yourself, because the cost of living for us has gone up. So therefore we need to reflect that in our prices. And it's not about saying, I fancy a holiday this year, I'm going to put my prices up. It's just a reflection that it's costing more to do business.
Yeah. It is, because even all those, in the last episode, we were just talking about all the different softwares that we buy, and even those, like when they go up, it has an impact on our bottom line. Therefore, it's important for us to keep in line with all of that. And the reason we're talking about all of this today, it's the 4th of July. It's Independence Day, as in America Independence Day, but also here in the UK, we talk about this being Independence Day, as in independent businesses. And I just love that. I love that we dedicate a day a year to really thinking about those businesses and finding ways to support them. Because I know you and I are big fans of trying to find ways to support local and independent businesses. So are there any businesses, should we think about some of the businesses we've been using recently? And
well, mine are all going to be food and drink businesses. So I always lean towards and have a preference towards supporting independent food and drink outlets in whatever city or town that I'm going to. So if I'm going to London, for example, I'll try and do my research beforehand to find somewhere to go that is an independent, because I want a unique experience.
And we recently went to Peggy's in Chelsea.
Yeah. So, well, exactly. And that's a classic example. We could have just, gone to one of those high street chains, but we didn't want to do that. No. We wanted to go somewhere that was independent.
And we're definitely not dissing high street chains. Like, they definitely serve a purpose, but we just love to champion independent brands
because they're run by people, individuals, families, communities, whatever. And that's what we stand for. So for me, it's very much around seeking out those gems when I go to any sort of other town or city.
So any food and drink businesses you want to shout out now that you can think of?
Well, in my town, so I live in Newark, we've got loads. So I'd like to shout out Gannett's, which is an amazing place. I'd like to shout out Not My Monkey, which is also an amazing place. There are lots. We are full to the brim, and they're just two that come to mind straight away. Mine's gone a little bit blank, to be honest. It's an age thing, I think.
Mine are a little bit different. They're more fashion related. So even just last night, I was on messaging my friend. She works at Fit Flop Shop. You have to get the words out right. Flip Flop Shop. flipflopshop.co.uk, and they obviously sell flip-flops. So last night I put a couple in my basket and sent her a message saying, have you got those ones in coral? But that's the nice thing, isn't it? When it's an independent business, you can send them messages to say, when you're next in the warehouse, can you have a look if you've got this different thing? And you get a more unique service. But also, to shout out a couple more, Sugar Hill Brighton is a clothing brand that I really love. I wear a lot of their dresses.
Sorry, go on.
And Scamp and Dude is another one of my favourites. So this bag, I've got things falling over. This bag is a Scamp and Dude bag, and this has quite a good backstory. And that's another thing with independence, isn't it? You get a good backstory sometimes. So this lightning bolt, you actually get it on dresses sometimes here as well. And what it does is it gives you, so you can use this creatively however you want, but it gives you like a boost. So let's say I'm about to go and present somewhere at a university and walk in and do a talk. I can press the boost and it gives me like a Vic, you can do this. You've got this, And I really love that. I think sometimes when brands have little quirky things and messages, even my dad said the other day, what's your little zigzag? I went, Dad, it's my little boost button. And he was a bit perplexed to start with till I explained.
Well, I just need to get, you just made, so this dress is from Vintage Vixen in Newark, which is an amazing vintage clothing shop, which I discovered a couple of years ago, but I'm very now a very big fan of. So she is
Brilliant.
amazing.
Well, this is it, isn't it? And I think being able to find businesses that we can then rebuy from and be a customer and really champion, like today, being able to give them a shout out. So what we'd like to do is to offer anybody who is listening to this today, go over to our podcast Instagram, which is at Scale Up Podcast, and go and tag in 3 businesses that are independent that you really, really love. We'd love to see them and to be able to follow them and to be able to give them a shout out too. That's it for today. It's 4th of July, Independence Day, and I think we've covered a lot, a very meaty topic today. Know your worth and stop underselling yourself and your services. And I think we've really delved deep into it, haven't we?